Welcome to DAPs Magic Reports. I'm Mr. Daps.
I'm Katie.
Some third thing.
Okay, some third thing. Do you want to try that again?
Actually.
Okay.
Yep.
It's actually Avengers Infinity War is some third thing.
Some third thing.
Anyway, we're going to talk about Avengers Infinity War.
And I'm Cameron.
Yes, you are. And this is going to be a very spoiler-heavy review that we will talk about as long as we feel like talking about it. And this is the point where you just tell them not to watch if they don't want to know anything.
Hey guys.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers are fun. Maybe you have some friends that have tried spoilers before, or have spoilers hidden under their bed. This is not the time to spoil a movie, especially for this one. It really counts on you not knowing things to really enjoy it the first time. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's a good starting point. Is this was a movie that was full of unexpected surprises, and with those unexpected surprises, I think it made for an even better movie than we ever could have imagined. Mm-hmm. Who would like to lead off with what they thought, big picture, about the entire film?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. And that's me who's missed several Marvel movies and doesn't know anything about the comics. So, I mean, you don't have to know everything to enjoy this movie. But you need to have a general baseline knowledge. But if I could see it without seeing any Captain America film, you can see it too.
And tragic.
Well, I saw Civil War.
We failed as friends.
Yeah, well, okay.
The other side of that is that comic book fans will rejoice. They make a lot of very obscure references that, like, one person in every theater is going to be choking in the back on popcorn enjoying. But it doesn't take away...
There's two in ours, but... You know.
Yeah, well, it doesn't take away from the experience of the general populace, which is a very delicate balance to do for you to be able to enjoy that so well without knowing any of the background, and me still to be able to go, the goblin's there. Yeah, it's very cool.
So overall, what'd you think of the film?
Great. I think it is the best Marvel film.
I would agree with you on that. They did a really good job of taking a bunch of different stories and characters and feels and making them cohesive in a way that really could have been jarring if they did it wrong. Because Captain America has a feel, Doctor Strange has a feel in his movies.
I know you're talking the artistic feel, but I'm just hearing feels, like emotional response to things.
Those were happening too.
Captain America has one feel.
Guardians, Wakanda, like, you had a lot of different genres almost of movies that they've used over the last 10 years that they literally just went and it worked somehow. In fact, they even here's your first spoiler, there was awesome mixed music as the Guardians were introduced to the movie, and it totally did not feel weird. Yeah,
and that's actually a good point. It's the first time you really see that they didn't back away from the juxtaposition of different styles in the movies, because they've had different directors, different writers on all of these, and they really embraced that when individual characters were on, and as the movie progressed, you see a blending of those styles. Specifically to the music, while we're on the subject, though, there were only 2 credited songs in the whole film, that being one of them, which I thought was super. And every other Marvel film has had many credited songs, and there were 2.
Alan Silvestri was incredibly busy for this one.
Yes, he was.
What did you think? So we started off with the big picture of the film, a little bit about the music, pulling the different themes together. What did you think about the choices of, I guess, the progression of the film?
Well, to speak into pace, which I think is one of the highest compliments we can give it, there are 3, and then they overlap. There are 3 main story components happening. There's the defense of Earth, there's Iron Man's offensive, and there's Thor's quest for a new hammer. Those are all individual movies. They should not have worked together, but they were able to balance them so well that it just kind of, it flowed in a way that you were never felt lacking from anything else.
And it wasn't laborious at all.
Yeah.
Like, it really could have gotten, all right, guys, let's move on. And I guess that's one of my first tests for any good movies. Did I look at my watch? And I didn't look at my watch through this movie. I looked at the people sitting next to me freaking out, which was great fun. And actually, the most fun was Maddie, who was on the other side of you, because she was so into the movie, and
she was yelling.
She yelled at the screen a couple times.
While we're calling out Maddie, she definitely yelled at the end of the film in the silent moment, and the entire theater had a reaction to it. It was
amazing. Yeah, it was. It really, like, upped the viewing. I thought it upped the viewing experience to me, because there was other reactions going on around me, but they're more just like, you know, jittery or covering your face or hiding under the. I think Caitlin at one point was climbing underneath her seat. I don't know what was going on. There was
a lot happening.
There was a lot going on in the theater, but I think it was one of the best things it did is it kept it moving and it didn't get boring at any points, and it really could have if they over-explained something, and they didn't. Let's talk about some of the character choices. What do you think of that?
Anyone specific? There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Pick your favorite character and go why you thought they were your favorite in this movie. Because I thought it was interesting how we came in. We'll start with this. We came into this movie with some what we thought were educated ideas of what would happen to different characters throughout the film. Mm-hmm. By the end of the film, most of those things were wrong. So you had a development of... Actually, let's just start. We have all the characters on Earth that were defending Earth. So you've got Wanda and Vision. You've got Captain America back. You've got Bucky. You've got Black Panther. Who am I missing?
Like a dozen.
Yeah, you got a lot of these peripheral.
All of them.
But
that's
Black Widow, Falcon,
War Machine.
Yeah. I'm like, there is a lot of characters.
I'm like, who else was flying?
Yeah.
There
was the two flyers. Yeah. But you have all of this development, which really centered around, more than anything, Wanda and Vision. Mm-hmm. Like, that was they became the central characters for this.
I think they were secondary. I think the central character for this was Thanos.
No, I mean, yeah, well, yes. Yeah, but for the Avengers, yes. Earth core, they were really the central thing, and it was interesting seeing Captain America and Black Widow and many of these other ones that have been central characters really kind of taking second fiddle as they try to protect Vision, really, is what it comes down to.
I did think that was interesting because I hated Wanda and Vision in Age of Ultron. Yep. Like, I hated them so much. And when they showed the scene where they're in the apartment together, I was like, oh no, are we seriously doing this? This is awful.
Yeah.
But
I actually had that thought too. I was like, oh.
Like, in Age of Ultron, it was jarring, and I was like, this is horrible, we shouldn't do this. But then in this film, it felt like they really had come into their own, and it felt a lot more natural, and like they actually kind of made sense instead of just, weird, she's a child.
Well, and they addressed that issue too. They're like 2 years.
Yeah.
And like they flat out addressed that it was kind of weird, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite character, for all of the worst reasons, ended up being Star-Lord.
Oh, yeah.
So we're moving into space now.
Well, are we sticking specifically Earth? I can't name Earth.
You divided it into 3, and I like that
so
organization.
If we're just doing Earth,
yes.
Goodness, I think my favorite out of those. She didn't get a lot of screen time, but for the time that Okoye was on screen was some of the best stuff. For the Earth scenes. Not only just for humor early on, but for the reactions at the end were just flawless.
Yeah, nailed it. So let's go to space then, since you want to talk about
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord.
He was terrible, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Star-Lord is an idiot. People forget that Star-Lord is an idiot. And guess what, guys? Star-Lord was an idiot.
Yeah.
He literally ruined everything.
He did.
Because he's an idiot. And that makes me very happy.
He ruined everything because he's human, and he had a very human reaction. And that's part of the best part of storytelling in Marvel, is that the stories always feel very human, no matter what the situations are and the circumstances and whatever. So the fact that, spoiler, he just found out that his girlfriend got killed by Thanos, and his reaction is to fight. And that is the most human thing, and I think everyone can relate to that. And it's stupid, and he ruins everything. We were this close. Movie could have been like 45 minutes shorter, because it could have just ended and everyone could have been happy.
That's the thing, they got the glove off.
They did. Yeah.
Oh.
But Star-Lord was picking a fight, but it was human, and it was a real story, and it's the fact that we all are talking about it still is a very high compliment to Marvel storytelling.
And it really came down to, it was like for central characters in space, or that storyline, it was Star Wars, Tony Stark, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange.
Star Wars?
Yeah, you definitely said Star Wars.
Did I say Star Wars? Star-Lord.
I wasn't going to call you on it, but it was too good.
I had this moment of,
what did you just say?
Am I still grieving, or did he say Star Wars?
Both. Anyway, you have those 4 main characters with some peripherals going around, and I thought it was really interesting to watch. Well, Doctor Strange developed kind of interesting. I don't know that I loved how they treated his character, but he did have some development as the storyline went on, and so did Tony Stark.
Strange is a lot closer now to what his comic perception is normally, which is arrogant as all heck, but usually the one working in a way that you can't possibly understand because he's 18 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they portrayed him in this one. I like that. I'm
not a huge fan. Every time that Tony Stark's in a movie, it's always like, I'm so happy with Pepper Potts. Oh no, look at this thing.
Whoops.
Every single time he's in a movie. And this one felt like they overused every movie cliche ever, where it was like, oh, we want to start a family and we're gonna get married and all these things. Oh no, duty calls. It was very much like a buddy cop movie, like
Stuck
one last ride type thing.
Yeah.
Like, and
they streamlined the process, the formula of Stark and Potts of just like, oh, it's 5 minutes in and they've already completely ruined their relationship. Great.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the beginning of it, and she's calling him to come home, and then they lose connection because he's so far in space. Which, great job to his service provider, because they got pretty far in space before they lost connection.
Yeah.
I can barely get in Disneyland before I lose connection, so that was really well done by whoever.
I'm going to credit Friday. I think Friday made it happen. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It seems like that's probably the best option for that. What do you think of Peter Parker?
He was one-dimensional in the best possible way.
Yeah.
They really, really played up the fact that he's a kid.
Yeah.
The entire film, which makes the ending even that much worse.
Oh yeah.
The tech we got to see, like, because he had the Iron Spider suit, and it wasn't revealed until pretty close to the film that he actually had the 4 extra arms on him. That was great. The comic geek in me was very, very happy to see that. But yeah, pretty much just a one note. I'm a kid doing space stuff.
He was more comic relief than anything else.
Definitely.
Yeah,
which is great.
And then, what did you think of the 3 of them working together? Well, 4 if you include Star-Lord.
That was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
It's all very different personalities that shouldn't work together. Like, I mean, that was the whole movie. It shouldn't work together, but it does. And those 4 especially, they're so... Especially in the case of Stark and Doctor Strange and Star-Lord, they're such loud, strong personalities that all think that they're the right one. So the fact that they all work together was very interesting.
I would have never put them in a scene together. Personally, if I was casting the film, I would not have done it.
I can't wait to see the bonus features to talk about how they decided. Like, I hope there's a really good,
behind the scenes
decision. Like, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? And then we did. So then let's move on to Thor's storyline.
Well, my favorite from that was easily Rocket.
I agree.
They made some very hard decisions with Rocket throughout the film, and a lot of calling their shots in dialogue choices that is just heartbreaking. And I think that makes for a very interesting character moving forward more than any of the other characters that we've seen.
What do you think of how they dealt with Thor?
Well, he had his eye on things. That was the only pun I could come up with. Is that okay? Okay.
He was a good pirate angel. He's a very good pirate angel. And I think one of the most heartbreaking lines of the entire movie, and it kind of was comic relief at first, is when he's talking to Rocket, and he's like, well, my brother is dead. Well, he's been dead before, but I think he's going to stay dead this time. And that was, like... It kind of put a real sense. We've already... Because everybody in our row, at least, was like, yeah, but Loki's been dead before. How much is Infinity War really going to try and ruin us? And then when Thor said that, it was kind of like a snapback.
And it happened so fast, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that any of us expected that to be...
In the first 5 minutes.
Well, forget even that. The Ragnarok ended with a slight ray of hope in that they had just escaped with the majority of Asgardian population.
Yeah.
And then within the first 5 minutes, like, by the way, that's ruined. Like,
yeah. That was the opening of this movie was, hey, it was them being like, we're not warships, please don't attack us, and you cut to the ship and everyone's dead. Like, there was a lot of loss happening.
It surprised me. That was pretty heavy right at the beginning, and they never let go.
The other thing was when Rocket was like, "Oh, do you have a dad?" And he's like, "Dead." "A brother?" "Dead." "Best friend?" "Stabbed through the heart." Like, Thor has no one. And that's what part of what makes that so sad is that, well, you have Groot, who's a teenager and doesn't care, but Rocket, who's always kind of been the lone wolf who doesn't have anyone, and then now Thor is in the same position as Rocket. Like, it was very much... I liked the...
He got to take on the Yondu role a little bit, especially with the eyeball thing. It was good.
It was interesting, too, to see them paired together, just because you wouldn't naturally put them together either. No. And that's, like, the Earth crew, you kind of imagine. Like, they're all whatever.
In the same realm.
But the two space crews were an interesting choice, and I thought it made for a stronger movie. Let's talk about...
together a team.
You're right. No. Paul Bettany. What did you think of Thanos?
He was a good villain. Possibly my favorite Marvel villain to exist, because they made him real, and Thanos did not think he was the bad guy. Thanos thought he was doing a lot of good in the world, and he thought he was saving, and he says mercy a million times because he thinks he's the good guy that's saving everyone, and he knows in his heart that, like, being the good guy comes at a price.
Well, that's the core of good storytelling. One of the rules is that your bad guy never thinks they're a bad guy.
Yeah.
And from how Thanos he's been portrayed and hinted at in end credit scenes for years now, it's been very clear that he's been the big bad. I did not expect to actually sympathize with him by the end of this film, and that's pretty cool.
His motivations were pretty cool. What did you think? I mean, the relationship between him and Gamora was explored, I thought, very effectively in this film. What did you think of that progression?
Well, Gamora was a pretty uninteresting character to me in general up until that point. I mean, she was a love interest that was bad turned good. She had the relationship with her sister, which was fine. But as far as, like, in the Guardians movies, it's not the part that stuck with me most. You always knew that she was the ex-daughter of Thanos. Great, that's the end of that story. But being able to put that in context was very nice, and she played into it very well. There was more of an emotional reaction than you would have expected from that actor, I think.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting knowing what we know about Thanos from the Guardians movies, where Gamora just hates Thanos, and you know about how Thanos pit Nebula and Gamora against each other, and Gamora was always the winning daughter and whatever. But seeing the beginnings of their relationship and how Thanos actually does think of Gamora as a daughter. He is heartless and he's evil, but he does see her as that daughter figure, and especially because he always favored her over Nebula. That she was like the winning daughter that was supposed to take over the throne, and if you turn the movie around, it could easily be the Avengers are the bad guys and Thanos loses his daughter to the Avengers. Like, that's...
It was interesting. I thought the moment of loss of Gamora was incredibly poignant because she doesn't see it coming at first, which really surprised... Like, we all saw it coming, but she played it so well where she didn't see it coming, which I think made it that much more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you could see the pain in his face. She doesn't realize it's coming, and then suddenly, bam. And it was also a really cool side note to have, was it Red Skull?
Red Skull attack, yep.
Like, that was a cool... Like, I heard the voice, and I was like, wait a minute. And, yeah, did you expect that?
No, that was probably one of the least expected character cameos to come back in the film. I mean, Hydra is always expected to be there, but... For the fact that they never pulled back Red Skull after him dying in the first Captain movie, you kind of say, okay, well, Hydra still exists, but not Red Skull. But he really is an iconic character, and for them to use him in that way was so out of left field that it was a good choice.
And there was a lot of good choices that connected with almost every movie leading up to this at one point or another. I'm sure somebody's going to write an article at some point of all of the connections between this film and all of the ones that came before it in the last 10 years. But it seemed like throughout the whole thing there was like this here, that there. I don't know. I thought that was really cool. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room. The ending.
Drax.
Well, Drax too.
It's the big elephant.
Drax was amazing in this. The ending.
Yes.
They went with choices that I think surprised everybody. I think some of them were expected, but not with the people that got it. So if you're still watching and
you've made it this far,
really don't want no spoilers, I would stop now.
You don't want no spoilers.
Yeah, this one's the big one. Is what's Thanos do?
Well, he doesn't kill Cap or Thor, which has been the huge debate leading up in this film.
As far as we know, yeah.
I keep going back into my head because the last 2 words the Cap says is "Oh God," and then it's gone. And I, in the back of my head, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, either that was a grieving thing and he knows what happened, or is that him realizing it's happening to him?
I think it was a grieving.
I hope it's a grieving thing.
Yeah. They didn't kill Iron Man, which was brutal. The biggest one, and I could rant about this for hours, killing Spider-Man
right
in Iron Man's arms was brutal. It was. I mean, remember, that's a kid. That is a 17-year-old kid who idolizes this guy and also...
Just became an Avenger.
Just became an Avenger. Oh, and don't forget the fact that he inadvertently blamed Tony Stark for him being there in the first place just before that. Oh, man, that was... and he was also the only one that really got a I don't want to die moment.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
That sucks so much.
Yeah.
That was probably the strongest choice they made as far as the people they actually picked to go. And, yeah.
With Black Panther being right after him, I think.
Yeah. And Black Panther going so quickly right in front of Okoye was very, very intense.
It surprised me, too, going back to Spider-Man, that we've for years... wanted to have like the Spider-Man that works, that everybody loves, that fits in, that's not too corny but also has the childlike glee about him, whatever. And so you finally get the Spider-Man we've all been hoping for. We get a movie and a half, 2 movies, whatever, of him, and he's gone. Like that, I think, made it even worse. What do you think of the big...
I still am processing it because I just don't know what to think. There's also some talk that this is just the Reality Stone, and it's things are being messed with, because in the movie, that was the stone that got messed with the most in the whole thing. I mean, obviously he did the snap, people are gone, but what if this isn't what we think? I don't know. The whole movie, I was being very logical, because everybody's dying, and I was like... But how are they going to come back? How are they going to do this? There's things lined up, and I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, I still...
And then the next movie begins with Steve Rogers waking up.
No, that's not a lot.
It was all a dream. He's back in World War II, and he's a skinny little punk.
Yeah. Surprise! The last 10 years of Marvel never happened. We got Chris Evans for another 10 years.
What was the hardest death, did you think?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
It was so, like...
That was brutal.
He's a kid. He's a kid who was on a field trip to the MoMA, and he feels this call to action, and he goes, and he leaves the field trip. He jumps off the school bus. He's left his best friend, his aunt, everyone at home wondering what's happened to him. And because he died in space, how are they going to know? If they're even left with the snap. But...
Yeah, who knows? Right? And it's going to be one of those things you're going to have to watch and rewatch this film over and over again, because there's just so much going on that like, it was a really tiring movie in that regard, because it really did just kind of... It kept beating you while you were down.
Oh, yeah.
And we walked out of it, and I was telling Cameron, I'm like, we just watched The Empire Strikes Back, except worse, in a good way, because you literally, like, Empire Strikes Back, the movie ends and there's no hope.
Yeah.
This one, same sort of thing, but beyond that, the victor, Thanos, is just like, I'm good. Like, he's getting everything he wanted, and he's relaxed, and it's actually a beautiful moment in some regards. But it's like, where do you go from here? And we've had a few. I mean, I guess this is a good question. You think it's going to go with the? You think the next movie is going to go into? Was it Super Avengers?
All-Star.
All-Star Avengers. I'm sorry.
I think the reason, because we know Ant-Man is going to be set before this film.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we also know that Ant-Man, Wasp, and Hawkeye do not show up in this film at all. I think just from my myriad of comic knowledge, that it's very, very specific why it happens before, because it's going to start dealing with time travel a lot.
Yeah.
The quantum realm, which is the smallest particles that Ant-Man briefly goes into in his first film, they can travel through time there, and that actually relates to Hawkeye in a very interesting way. A point being, though, I think it had to happen before because they're already doing things to help it. And I think that actually relates back to another really big question we got from this film, which was Doctor Strange having the revelation that out of however million options, there's only one way of success. And I'm wondering if we're still on the path for that success.
I think so.
He saw all of that, and that probably involves them going back as well.
Because that moment seemed way too important. Like, it was kind of the random out-of-the-box moment. And it was like, they focus on that a little bit too much for it to mean nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a cool, like, ooh, look what he's doing. He's being weird again.
Doctor Strange with his strange habits.
There he goes.
Right. There were some really good comedic moments with them, though.
Yeah. And that's the thing that makes me want to go back and watch it again the most, is that, especially in the first half of the film, there is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen in a Marvel movie that I've already forgotten half of because how destructive the end was.
Yeah.
Drax, I think, stole the show as far as jokes, though. He was easily the funniest part for me.
My favorite part with him was, how long have you been standing there? An hour. If I move slow enough, you can't see me. And he's trying to eat. And I'm like, no, we still see you. And he's like, no, you don't.
I'm pretty sure you don't.
Yeah.
I think my favorite line from him was like, that is not a dude. You're a dude. That is a man.
That was one of my favorite recurring jokes. Was the Star-Lord Thor thing of I'm the basically like the
machismo,
man up kind of thing.
The wanting to be the one who, like,
are you lowering your voice? No, this is how I always talk.
You're doing it again. But yeah, I thought that was a very funny thing, and then especially with Star-Lord being afraid to lose Gamora, and then them finally getting their Empire moment of Han Solo and Carbonite thing. So. Which is hard. And then there was Bubbles. So, Bubbles.
To put such a happy, joyful element in such a brutal scene.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. That was rough.
Yeah.
I actually really liked how they had these, I don't know, false starts throughout the film, too.
For, like, deaths and stuff?
Yeah. Like, throughout the entire movie, you're like, oh, gosh, they died again. And it was playing with the reality stone
Vision
again.
and Stark.
Yeah, it was terrible. But you really do have to wonder where it's going to go next, and it really, everywhere we thought we were going to be going into this next phase of Marvel movies, we have no clue now. Like, we have guesses of where we could go and how we could get there, and All-Star Avengers, but really, like, they completely upended everything they've done over the last 10 years, where we now have to wait another year to see if people live or die, and you're gonna add something?
There was something Cameron said, which I thought was incredibly accurate, and that was they sacrificed their cash cows in for good storytelling, because they could have easily been like, oh, but Spider-Man makes us money, and this makes us money. They were like, nope, we don't care. We're going to kill all your favorite people, and it doesn't matter if we have movies lined up for them, and it doesn't matter if this, and this. Like, we're gonna go for it. And we'll figure it all out later. So. Yeah,
their willingness
unless they already know
to take that risk to no matter if they bring them back or not or what. Mind you, superhero films, nobody ever really dies. That's
exactly.
Let's face it, that's almost guaranteed. But but for them to take the risk of ending the film the way they did, knowing that is at least a year of not, or at least lessened profitability for some of their most profitable characters, all for the sake of having a story that was impactful and resonated with more people. That's, I mean, hats off to them for that.
Well, the crazy part to me, I think, is yes, heroes can come back in the comic books, but they're drawn. Like, our heroes are aging.
That's true.
And so in my head, the practicality of this is like, oh great, you've got this big thing that's about to happen. It's really a good time to hit reset and get a whole new cast in. And then a lot of these younger, newer people ended up dead, and it was like, okay, well, now what's going to happen? And that's, I think, one of the brilliance of this film is anything could happen. They really sucker punched us in some ways.
And they're messing with, and you can't even take the comics as a framework anymore, because they've gone in. They've taken elements of storytelling from the comics and twisted them in such a way that now we don't know what they're doing with them. For example, Bucky being called the White Wolf, that was an entirely different character in the comics, which doesn't matter so much because he's already disintegrated. But the Thor taking on Stormbreaker, which is his new hammer axe thing, that was never his. That was another character from or adopted Asgard. Totally different storyline.
Which was also an awesome moment, though, of how he got that, and then how Groot helped with that, and Groot,
which is one of my favorite hidden things that probably didn't exist. Groot is gone, right? Which is heartbreaking for Rocket.
Again.
However, if Stormbreaker survived it, part of Groot is still alive in the hilt, so maybe he not dead.
But maybe he not dead.
All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out next. What does this film have to do
to be successful? I mean, I hope they don't completely subvert this film right out the gate. I hope, for our own delightful suffering, that we don't, by the end of this film, we don't have everything's fine then.
Yeah.
I still want there to be a lot going wrong, maybe a glimmer of hope by the end of this for a plan in place to try to fix things, but I don't want by the end of Ant-Man Wasp for them to be like, oh, by the way, this is how we fixed everything, everybody's still alive. Which
sure.
I could see them pulling, but I frankly don't think they will.
Yeah. I feel the same thing, and I think that this is going to be a successful movie because everyone's going to want answers, and they're going to want to see it. But I feel like this and Captain Marvel are going to give us a lot of answers that we want to see.
I almost hope they don't give us answers. I hope we almost walk out of both of these movies going how the heck is that going to connect? And then when we go and watch whatever's next, then suddenly all of these connection points pop into our brains and we go crazy and have, I don't know, throw things at the screen because it's you did what? I think that would be the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens, but...
Well, and that type of storytelling stinks a lot of Doctor Who. Everything they've set up in this feels like a full season of Doctor Who, which is to say they plant these seeds throughout many different episodes, and then there's always this big payoff at the end of a season or a couple of seasons of all of these things were for this one reason.
Suddenly connected, yeah.
I feel like they're doing a lot of that right now.
Which was, I think that was one of the best parts of this movie, that was seeing how things that we just didn't have any clue were connected.
And Amy Pond was there.
Amy Pond was there, so Doctor Who.
So Doctor
exactly.
Who.
Therefore Doctor Who.
Has to be.
When is the Doctor showing up in these films?
I think that was the next one, I believe.
Good. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That would be a funny monkey wrench to throw in. And get on the fan fiction, friends.
Or even just an Easter egg in the back.
Just like there's no.
Oh, that would be terrible. Then anything could happen.
Can I bring up an interesting point?
Were you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that a lot in this show.
Okay, Katie from Death Snatcher.
Yeah, Katie. Wee woo. Okay, that's fine. My thing that I've been thinking a lot about is the theme park universe.
Yes.
And I think because the unnamed Marvel Land is supposed to open in 2 years, we haven't gotten a lot of plans, and I feel like this movie might have had something to do with why we don't know what's coming yet.
That'd be cool.
And my thing with the theme park universe, and you and I actually had a heated debate about this after the movie.
So you're
last
saying
night.
Thanos is going to be walking around Disney California Adventure?
10 feet tall.
No,
I also, she said heated debate. Mind you, this was at midnight-ish, and so by heated it was kind of
and we were eating French fries.
No.
But we were talking about
important detail.
The theme park universe. French fries are important.
They are.
We're talking about the theme park universe, and I said that Disney was basically waiting on this moment to flex their theme park universe muscle because they've been saying it for a year or two now, going, "Oh, this is our own universe." And we were like, "Yeah, but you're doing the same thing as the movies." But this is their opportunity to be like, "Oh, well, this is why the Guardians are still alive, and this is why Groot's still walking around." And I think it's something Disney's always done with why is the Beast still the Beast, and why is Ariel a mermaid, and why does Rapunzel have long hair. It's something they've always done to be like, well, they exist in their own realm over here, and the movies kind of never happened. So I think that this is an opportunity for us to see maybe different directions that actually start branching out in the theme park universe, and that's something I want to see.
I just want to see Nick Fury at Disneyland.
That'd be the coolest thing ever.
No, that would go so bad.
Before or
so quick.
after Disintegration?
During.
Oh. Yeah, you would. But that was an awesome moment too.
Yeah, it was very
like
good.
honestly,
It was really good.
I hope that everybody who was disintegrated actually is disintegrated.
I hope
Like
so
I
too.
have no problem with
And
that.
here's the thing. I bet they are. However, they're going to via time stone or
But how are they gonna get the time stone? How? Is it by time travel? That's dumb.
Well, yeah. But
Welcome to the world of comics.
they'll
That's
get.
stupid.
They're going to get time travel not from using the time stone, but through the quantum realm. That's where that connects.
Science.
It's a different type of.
And then
time
they're gonna
travel.
go get and be like, oh, we got time stone now because we went back in time before Thanos got it. Is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and then the
This is
multiverse
starting to
with
sound also
multiple
like a
Infinity
Star
Stones.
Trek
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, it is.
A couple of them actually. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's. I
We're
kind of
playing with
think
fire.
if you kill him off, kill him off.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that always come back in the comics, but at the same time, having Nick Fury being a prime example die, I think it was a good closure for the character.
Yep.
Also, Coulson died, but we know Coulson's coming back.
Well, they already ruined that one, but I like Coulson, so it's okay.
Well, it's okay.
So it's
No, honestly, like I
Well,
think
that's what I'm saying. They did kill them. Like, this isn't a fake out. Is my big thing. Is that
Yeah.
they're legitimately dead. They're
Yeah.
going to find reasons to bring some of them back without fail, but it's not going to be like it was the Reality Stone tainting it, or it was
That'd be so cool, though.
or the Infinity Gauntlet brings them back. I think it's going to be something different than that. I don't want the it was all a dream cop out.
Oh, no, that'd be
I want
terrible.
that. So,
well, and I
do
don't
not
want the
that.
hard reset thing where it's by the end of the next movie, everything's back to where it was before this current movie, except for Thanos was defeated. You know, the time
Yeah.
thing that happens in Star Trek all the time. Yeah, pretty much. Movies, TV shows, they do it everywhere.
I do just think it's really funny that at the end of this movie, Thanos is happy. And Thanos is like, I did my job. Like, I have no reason to bother anybody else. I'm just going to retire on my rocking chair on my porch. Like,
But
that
would
was
he
Thanos.
stop bothering other people?
He won't. Well,
He won't.
The thing I'm curious about now that I'm going to go back and watch it is his retirement staring out at the sunset thing looks like it's on the reality scape of Titan, which is he shows briefly when he's expositioning. So I'm wondering, I mean, now that he has the Infinity Gauntlet, that allows him infinite power. What's to say, but his logic for killing half of everyone is so that there's enough resources to go around. However, with the Infinity Gauntlet, he can make infinite anything. I wonder
Why
when
not just
that,
fix the problem?
yeah, like I wonder when that logic starts playing against itself.
Because genocide puts a smile on his face.
That is accurate
I
and
know.
creepy.
But that's like, but that I just like the idea of him being retired and he's on his rocking chair and he's like, ah, yes, there is order restored in the galaxy. And then people start going back in time and he's like, ah, heck. And then he uses his gauntlet to do things.
Old man Thanos, grumpy again.
Yeah, basically.
And then they end up fighting with dinosaurs or what?
Oh yeah,
No,
I would watch that.
that's actually the Grand Canyon diorama
Yeah,
on the
that's-
train.
that's where it
is
came
use
from.
the time
Yeah, that was
stone.
a call ahead for.
It's actually all connected.
And that's the theme music they'll use during that section as well.
Well, you know how the Pirates movies were based off the actual Pirates of the Caribbean
Yeah.
attraction.
That's the
turns
secret.
out
Marvel
was based on the
Don't Tell Anyone was based on
That's very
the
funny.
Disneyland Railroad.
I would watch that so much. Oh, that makes me
I
happy.
think we should make a movie about it.
With our tens of dollars
All right.
of budget.
So what happens in the next film? Let's get your predictions right now.
More death. Some answers, but mainly death.
But mainly that. I think the secondary wave of recruiting starts.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know that Captain Marvel's coming, but I think there's a huge canon of characters they can pull from, and now that they have a lot of access to it because of the Disney buyout of Fox, I think they're going to start playing with that a little bit more as well.
Do you think we're going to see the X-Men? connected?
I think Marvel Studios and Disney are wise enough to know that those characters, at least the ones that already exist in film, are well established the way they are, and it would be difficult to pull them without getting the exact same actors to do that, and even more difficult to merge those universes because they don't really work together.
They went two very different directions.
Yeah, and their realities don't mesh. Like, one would not be able to be there without the awareness of the other. So I could see them pulling some mutants, but not any that we've seen.
Okay. And so the resolution of the next film?
Resolution of the next film is that there's a slight glimmer of hope to restore some order to the universe as far as taking out Thanos, but not very far along, just new faces.
Will he still have the gauntlet?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no clue what's going to happen to the next film.
Yeah.
You're our best hope. All right, that's what we've got for you on this edition, I guess you could say, of DAPs Magic Reports. Make sure to always subscribe to this channel. And I don't know, what do you want to say?
If you want to see more of us talking about things this Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the film with a little bit less spoilery stuff, but probably have some new insights after a couple days of thinking about it. You can go to thegeekscorner.com. We live stream Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time there every week.
If you want to check out all of our spoiler and non-spoiler reviews, our Easter eggs, our where we think it's going next articles, check out dapsmagic.com and subscribe to our mailing list.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night.